But the lady who is now married, though she is happy, she may slip into a way of life and forget how this was brought about. People quickly recover from this teaching. I could tell you so many stories of friends of mine who wanted help and who told me the dream they wanted to come true. And with them I listened as though I heard and looked as if I saw what they wanted to see, and the thing became true in their world. This is a story of my brother in law told in one of my books. He knows that story is there, and though all my other books are in evidence in his library, that particular one he has put up so high that no one can reach it. He is such a factual, realistic person that though the dream he wanted most in the world was brought about, now he is embarrassed when he thinks about the way it was brought about. He is too down to earth to want to remember it. I don't know what he's referencing there. It might come to mind later as I'm reading the rest of this out. But before I advance, I want to move back to one important point that came up in the experience of between these two ladies. So when they, as you can see here, when they went to the hotel, so he said he's never going to remarry. So in that moment, the neighbor lady, from hearing this, she had the complete opportunity to bring Barabbas back into her consciousness, at least with as regards to this man, to say that, well, it's not going to happen. You know, we did that every night, and I appreciate that, but I don't think it's going to happen, at least not with this guy. But then the friend who went to the Neville lectures and taught her said, "You are happily married. We're not going to discuss this. You've done what you've done. It's going to manifest. You're already married. So I don't care what the guy said. You're already married. Like I married you 30 nights in a row. I slept in it. I know the qualities you want in a person. I know this guy ticks all the boxes. You're married. I don't care what he told you today." I think the difficulty a lot of people have, whatever the desire they want, whether it's a relationship or it's something else in life, like maybe if it's a job, it's the first call back saying, yeah, sorry you didn't get it. In those moments, you need to still persist. Don't invite the robber mindset back in just because you encountered one little distressing thing in the outer world, no matter how distressing it may be. I mean, it's been a while since I really looked at forums related to Neville, though I still do browse for success stories. But, you know, people mention a lot, you know, when it comes to relationships, you know, basically hearing things that hint towards not being interested in commitment when the person has already imagined them being married. And in those moments is when you need to stay persistent and you need to continue to believe in what you've done, and not give up, not invite the robber consciousness back in. There's another story, we haven't done it this yet on the stream, which is weird because it's probably the most famous Neville story, where Neville's mentor Abdullah is mentioned, and in that story Neville wanted to go to Barbados, and you know he had basically gotten some sort of news that hinted that he may not go, or he was just in general uncertain of how he would get to go back because at the time he couldn't afford it. And his mentor Abdullah, the story goes, physically slammed the door on him, like told him, "We're not going to discuss this, you're in Barbados," and slammed the door on him. And so wouldn't entertain any more thoughts of doubt from Neville. He wouldn't let Neville do that. Well, a lot of times you have to do that to yourself. You have to cut off those thoughts yourself. You have to stop your mind and your state. You have to stop moving into that state. You have to stop yourself from going back into that old state once you've claimed something new. I know recently Neville had brought up the metaphor of, you know, when you have new clothes it takes a little bit of time to wear them in and feel comfortable in them. It's the same with the state and these things that happen in the outer world, that they're like, it's showing you what you're going to give up when you move into the new state. And when they come up, you're allowed in that moment, you have the total prerogative to abandon the new state and go back to the old state. You're completely allowed to do that. And in the case of a relationship, that might mean saying, well, he's never going to commit. In the case of the job, it might be saying, well, I didn't get it. And I don't know, I guess I'll never work in this position or at this company I want. In the case of money, you might have a total tumble back in mindset and say, well, I guess I'll never get ahead. I'll never afford this house. I'll never have this car, whatever it may be. So just be aware that when those things come up, you don't need to entertain them beyond ignoring them. Like, you can really just say, okay, well, that happened. Doesn't matter. I know what I imagined. And every time it comes up, just put it out of mind. You may even want to come up with a sort of dismissive affirmation for it, or even look at it, especially if it's fear-based. Allow yourself to sit with it, experience it, and then dedicate it. You literally just sit with it and say, I dedicate this feeling to the Father within. I have no more need of it within my life. And you'll sort of just feel it dive deep within you. And it shouldn't come up anymore after that. If it does, each time you just sit with it and dedicate or devote. Devote is also the biblical term for it. You devote that particular fear or aspect of that state. You essentially send it back to eternity. I'm pretty sure in this, if not in this lecture we're reading now, in the one that was playing at the beginning of the stream today, Neville talks about and this is a more kind of esoteric aspect of it, but he talks about the concept that states are eternal, but in our practical experience of them, they're very changing. They're constantly changing. They're very serpentine, but the state does exist eternally in spirit. Okay, let's get back to the lecture.